Hello everyone and welcome to the program. I'm Sean Kimbaloye. Well, not a good time for the country. The mainstay of Nigeria's economy is oil. Well, that's known. It is sad enough that global price of the commodity has plummeted as Nigeria tries to wriggle itself out of the upset on what feet are. The renewed agitations in the oil-rich Niger Delta region is another tragedy. Winning the election was perhaps the hurdle for the APC before and early of 2015, but getting into power, the reality of government or governance came staring in the face of the government, led by President Buhari. But the new challenge posed by the series of attacks on oil installation also came, which has also crippled production in the oil-rich Niger Delta region. Now, eyes are on the Niger Delta region, Nigeria's cash cow. The realization of the present state of oil business and how lucrative it is global. But as Nigeria tries to jolt out of the nightmare of the dip in the prices of the commodity, of the other issues stare in the face. Oil spill and environmental pollution is a major headache. The Buhari government moved into the area to clean up, but it appears the government has more to clean up than the environment.
We have now to concentrate on the militants to try to know how many of them in terms of groupings, to try to get in touch with their leadership, and to try to persuade them, please let them give Nigeria a chance. I assured them that when we were very, very junior officers, we were forced by our leaders, and the famous saying which General Gawan said, to keep Nigeria one, is a task that must be done. Everybody then who was in the field from 1967 to 70 knows what is the government by this. We never think of oil, much less oil to make us fight among ourselves. All we are after is one Nigeria. But please pass the message to the militants that one Nigeria is not negotiable.
In relation to the agitations which are now rife, fresh militant groups are now coming up in the region. Pipelines and oil installations are no longer safe. Each day, one attack or the other is what we are faced with. The president has spoken on ways to douse the situation in the Niger Delta region. And when he spoke a few weeks ago, Nigerians were optimistic about the future. But now, it appears the dialogue brought to the table is going as envy stage, or, well, there are concerns, though, that the government is not doing its own bit in the oil matter. Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka at a press conference in Lagos speaks on the matter, and here is his plea.
Once more, please respond to the efforts of these militant groups to arrive at a holistic and comprehensive solution. At the moment, they feel that the government of General Buhari, President Buhari, I should say, is not seriously responding to their own outreach.
That's Professor Wole Soyinka, his plea about the issues of the Niger Delta people and the agitations in that region. But of course, with some of these different interviews that I'm going to show you now, stating clearly what the thoughts and the mindset of some of the major key stakeholders in the Niger Delta region, what they feel about the situation in the region. Take a listen.
The people of Niger Delta are saying, you cannot use our money for 95%. We, the 7% that you say you will not develop us, that you will not call with arrogance, say, with that our own, we will keep it. Go and get for your 95% and develop them.
We had our fair share from 2010 to 2015. Buhari is not our problem.
Who are they for this boy called themselves Niger Delta Avengers?
From the time people like Asari Dokbo and Tom Polo and all of those people were in the creeks, I have never supported any form of violence.
To the so-called Niger Delta Avengers, who are they avenging? Somebody said in the telephone, he said, Avenger, where did they avenge? And we're not going to be apologetic to anybody. We're not going to be. We are not afraid of anybody. The military that are coming, are they not human beings? Do they have iron gates on their body? That you shoot them, the bullet will sound bang! Yeah, they cannot.
I agree we have a problem, but not by going to destroy facilities on ground, federal government facility that we will all benefit from.
Destroy pipeline. What are the consequences? The pipeline is blown up. The oil comes out. It pollutes our water. The very water we are drinking, this same oil pollutes it.
You hear them there, some key major stakeholders in the Niger Delta region. But just how much is all of this costing us, the militancy in the region? Well, those are the figures that are coming straight on your screen right there. Nigeria has estimated 2.2 million of production of oil per day. That's the estimation by the Nigerian government in the 2016 budget. But the earnings now is supposed to be 820 billion naira. But take a look at what has happened to that expectations. All output has dropped to about 1.4 million barrels per day from the 2.2 million that was estimated. About 800 million is short now. Now Nigeria is said to be losing over 1 billion naira daily due to some of these incidents in the Niger Delta. In 2016 alone, over 1,400 incidents of vandalism was recorded. Take a look at what happened in 2015. Nigeria lost 643 million liters of premium motor spray, PMS petrol, valued at 51 billion naira through pipeline vandalism alone. Well, these are just some of the issues, and we want to set the record straight and bring you some of the perspectives so you get a sense of what is happening and how severe some of this situation is. More on these as Channels Television's data and information analyst Babajide Ogunsanwo joins us for some insight into the details of this matter. Many thanks for joining us, Babajide. If you look at some of these things that we're seeing, it brings to mind some of the issues in the Niger Delta region. We need oil. Oil is our mainstay, but again, what are some of those things that come to your mind when we talk about the situation in the Niger Delta?
I mean, it's quite clear. There are two barrels of great significance that are really influencing what is happening in the Niger Delta. And I'll explain what these two barrels are as we discuss. But let's look at what has caused all of these problems. It started in 1996, when for the first time, we sold 1 trillion naira worth of oil. Now look at what happened carefully between 1996 to 2011. Oil exports from the country went as high as 14.3 trillion naira in 2011. Within that same period, 2011, the National Bureau of Statistics released a report. It was the poverty report, and within that poverty report, it showed that those 8 oil-producing states in Nigeria had an average poverty rate of 62%. Now, I don't know if the militants read that report, but what has happened is ever since the poverty report came out, our total export of oil outside the country has been on a decline. So we moved from 4.3 trillion naira in 2011 to 4.2 trillion in 2012, to 4.1 trillion in 2013, to 12 trillion in 2014, and down to 8.1 trillion last year. So we clearly can understand that perhaps what is causing a lot of this agitation is more than half of teenagers, more than half of youths, and more than half of adults living in these 8 oil-producing states in the country are living in poverty.
One of the things that we heard one of the former agitator there say is that from 2010 to 2015 they've had a fair share of whatever he was talking about there, and we look at some of the monies that have been plowed into this region all of those years. One will be wondering what could have cost the rate of poverty. But again, one of the things that we'll be looking at is that that region is rich in terms of potential, in terms of what is under the ground. But again, monetary-wise, how rich is this region?
Very rich when we look at what is under the ground. But when we look at what is above the ground, and what we have above the ground are men. And we heard one of the agitators. And back to the 2 barrels I talked about. What we are currently doing right now is we are exporting oil barrels and we are importing the second barrel, which is the barrel of the gun. Sadly, the importation of the barrel of the gun is now depressing and is being used to depress the sales of the oil barrels. That is where we find ourselves today. Even if we look at these regions and look at how much they are collecting from the federal allocation, is significantly declined. Akwa Ibom, for instance, looking at the first half of this year compared to the first half of last year, and looking at their net collection from FAC, it is down by 39.6 billion naira. Delta State, looking at this year, first half of this year compared to the first half of last year, Delta is in a shortfall of 36 billion naira. Same thing with Rivers. The first half of this year compared to the first half of last year, Rivers State has a shortfall of 29 billion naira. That is where the problem starts from.
But again, one will wonder, because some of the things that they say is that they're not getting what is commensurate to what should come to their region based on what is being taken away from their region. But again, how much of projects goes into these areas?
And perhaps that's where we need to look at. Now, the National Assembly's own Budget and Research Office, NABRO, has mapped out all the capital projects in the 2016 budget. And they've said within that report, 3 important things you will find if you analyze it properly. They say 78% of capital projects in the 2016 budget are going to the north. Here's the second thing they've said. They said only 7% of capital projects are going to the south-south region. The third thing that you find in the NABRO capital mapping project is that the 2 zones that the president lost, the south-south and the southeast, account for only 13% of capital projects in the 2016 budget. Now, these are part of the things that are causing agitation. But is the president really concerned? I think he is. But here's the challenge. The challenge is there's a lot of discussions on picking and negotiating about how do we move forward. So we're looking at who will be the right leader that would negotiate a lot of this change that is being pushed. The challenge is the discussions on negotiations are all quality talk. What the Niger Delta guys want is quantity. They want more money, Sheon. That is really the problem.
But can we afford that for that region? We have 6 major regions in the country, but can they get more from the national purse?
Their agitation is they should get more because that is where the oil is being produced from. That is their narrative. They say that Kano...
There is a derivation fund.
There's a derivation fund, for instance. But they say that Kano State has 32 billion naira worth of projects in the 2016 budget. And Akwa Ibom State, based on NABRO's report, has the least allocation of capital projects, only 1.9 billion naira. And these are all the things they point out to that is causing a lot of friction currently in the economy. But is the president making spirited efforts to change it? Yes, yes, I think he is. But will the efforts be sufficient to reduce the tensions in the Niger Delta region, especially if we look at Ondo State collecting derivation from the southwest? We look at the 5 states in the south-south, Rivers Delta, Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, and Edo State in the south-south. And we also know that within the southeast, Abia and Imo State are also collecting derivation. It will be interesting in the days ahead to look at what will be coming up, especially within the next 2 weeks when we know one of those states, Edo State, that collects the derivation fund, will be up for elections.
Thank you so much, Babajide Ogunsanwo, Channel Television's data and information analyst, talking to us on some of these figures that will be important for our conversation tonight. Well, don't go anywhere because it's just starting. We take a moment on the program, and when we return, what do the Niger Delta militants really want? We find out after now. Join us again.